oil leaks. Looks like valve cover gasket, but also pushrod tube seals. You can see the oil coming out from behind the seal, or the O-ring, collecting at the lowest spot and then dripping. That's a deflector plate. Sits like this. You can see it's all oily. It's an air-cooled motor, so air comes down through these fins and then the air gets blown out the back. So we're going to do these pushrod tube seals. So remove the bottom cover if it has one. The spring, just pry the spring down. And somebody's glued this cover on. And you have to pry it or knock it off. Gasket is glued on. Yeah, it makes removal much more difficult. Or a pain in the ass. We remove the spring clip that holds tension against the tubes. I guess I forgot to show that. Hooks into the bottom of these supports, and then the bottom of the spring pushes against the pushrod tube. You'll see better on your car. No need to set it to top dead center on any one cylinder. It's an 11mm. Nuts and washers. Then you just grab the assembly and pull it out. Don't burn your hands if it's warm. And you'll see two narrow spaced and two wide spaced. If you accidentally mix them up, it won't fit because the pushrod tubes aren't spaced the same. You can also look at these, the adjusters here. Sometimes they develop grooves and then you need to replace them, or what I do is I regrind them smooth. This one's pitting a little bit. This one's pitting a little bit. Now you can see the slots where the spring sits in. Sits like that. And you just grab the tubes, grab them gently and wiggle them out. You can pry against the block to help. And be careful of oil coming out. There may be oil that comes up. Inspect the pushrod tubes. Should be nice and smooth at the ends. depending on the type of silicone, it can be a pain to remove the O-rings. When you take these apart, just make sure it goes back in the same order. And again, the cutouts face down. And you want to make sure that everything is moving freely. And you can put a bit of oil here. That's engine oil, not solvent. Even though I washed it, there's still engine oil here. So you want to make sure everything is lubricated when you put it back. And nothing's binding. If it's binding, something's wearing and you need to replace it. And you want to make sure that the pushrod tube sits correctly in the rocker as well as in the lifter. Make sure to clean all the silicone off of the cylinder head and in the bore here. You want to also inspect the valve stem head for excessive wear. You can see this one is smooth, this one's pitted, this one's pitting, this one's smooth. That can cause valve noise or lifter noise. You can use a small Dremel tool if it's concaved or if there's too much pitting, and smooth it out with a Dremel tool. I know, almost.
Almost. I think you freaked him out more than you did me, eh?
Yeah. Okay, nice and clean again. Install and reversal removal. You shouldn't even have to readjust the hydraulic adjusters here, or for the hydraulic lifters, but it's a good idea to do. But again, shouldn't really have to. The preload is 1.5 to 2 turns, and that compensates for any type of wear usually. So, but you don't know how long they've been sitting in there, and as the adjuster wears, obviously things become looser. So it is a good idea to adjust them, and you loosen the nut, back out the adjuster, back it back in until it just touches, until there's no more play between the pushrod tube and the rocker, and from that point you turn it 1.5 more turns.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sometimes you just get the customer word for it. That's just replace it. It's not good.
Make sure those are sitting okay. This is a hydraulic lifter. You want to make sure when you put the push rod on the hydraulic lifter before you tighten up the rocker arm, that the push rod sits inside this lifter. What can happen is if it's sitting like this or on the edge like this, once you start the vehicle, there'll be too much pressure on it because this portion here does not collapse, and you could end up breaking or bending a tube, or it'll just all of a sudden pop into place like this if you're lucky. But if you have it resting like this and you're doing your adjustment, then obviously even if it pops back in, your adjustment is wrong. So before you start up the car, make sure the push rods sit inside the lifter. Okay, so I might as well show it. Already did the exhaust here. Loosen the 14 or 15 millimeter nut. Turn the adjuster out until you have a little bit of free play. You can hear the free play clicking. Then you carefully, slowly turn it in until it makes contact with the valve stem, and from there you go 1.5 turns. Half a turn, 1.5. If you go a little bit more, a little bit less, no big deal. Just double check this one now. Half a turn, 1.5. A little bit of free play. Tighten it till it, turn it in till it stops. Half a turn, 1.5. If you go a little bit more, no big deal. And this has to be done while the cylinder is on top dead center. So the best thing to do is to remove the distributor cap so you can see where the ignition rotor is. The firing order is 1, 4, 3, 2. So if you turn the engine counterclockwise, you go 1, 2, 3, 4. It's on number 4 top dead right now. Number 4 top dead center is the timing mark for number 1 is down here now. When number 1 is at top dead center, it's up here. So if it were at number 1, turning it clockwise in engine firing direction would be half a turn would be number 4, another half a turn number 3, another half a turn number 2, another half a turn number 1. So I'm at number 4 right now. I'm going to turn it half a turn and adjust number 3. It's a 22mm wrench on the alternator. I'm going clockwise with firing order since I'm only doing number 4 and number 3. If I were to adjust all of them, I would go counterclockwise, start with number 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that is the top dead center mark for number 1 and 3. Loosen off the nuts. Back it out until you get free play. Tighten until it touches. And go 1.5 turns. Half a turn, 1, 1.5. Some lifters are really sensitive and they start moving as soon as you come in contact. So you got to really feel for the contact. I'm just going to double check this one. Half a turn, 1, 1.5. Yep. Half a turn, 1, 1.5.